What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Sit Down Saturday, and today we are going to be comparing the BadCube Swerve with the Fanstoys Swerve. If you remember from the Gears competition, the final score was 8-2 Fanstoys, and we'll have to see how it shakes out this time with the latest Swerve offering. Real quick, before we get started, there is one little bit of housekeeping I have to do. For one, I hope that you all enjoyed the ball game there on Wednesday, where we took the baseball bat to Silverbolt. It was definitely therapeutic for me, and we all owe Robert thanks for being willing to sacrifice it. Secondly, the Blaster Blanket pre-order is closing today. I'll give you a quick little interlude of what it's about. Real quick before we get started, a friendly reminder that the Blaster Blanket pre-order is up. If you'd like to inquire about how to order either a Sherpa blanket or a woven blanket, contact me via email at bobbyskullface@gmail.com. The email will also be in the description if you were interested. And just as a heads up, it is closing at the end of business today, so if you want to get your orders in, make sure you contact me via email before midnight tonight. For everybody that has ordered some, much appreciated, and I haven't been able to order them yet. My goal is to order them within the next couple weeks, and hopefully they'll arrive by the first week of December, and then you guys should have them well before Christmas. That's the plan. If you have any questions about it, please feel free to contact me. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and get started, and you know where we start. And we'll start with accessories. They both come with the guns. They tie out there. The BadCube comes with one extra head. The Fanstoys comes with two extra head options along with multiple face options, which gives Fanstoys the edge over the BadCube. And neither have gimmicks, so they tie out there. Moving on to build and materials. Fanstoys definitely takes the materials. The plastics feel better. It includes the die cast, etc., etc. It's really a non-comparison, to be honest. As far as build-wise, I gotta tie them out because they're both built pretty well. They're different, but the BadCube isn't built poorly, and neither is the Fanstoys. Moving on to hardware, you gotta give it to Fanstoys because the BadCube doesn't have any ratchets at all, so there's nothing really to kind of compete against. Moving on to Sculpt and Paint. From the front of view, I really gotta give it to Fanstoys, and it's always been the same issue with the BadCube when it's been those bits that kind of sit like shoulder pads over the shoulders, but they don't quite look like shoulder pads, but they don't quite look like they're not shoulder pads. It looks like the transformation wasn't finished in some ways. I've always had that issue with this thing. I think the colors are more vibrant on the Fanstoys. I just think the whole thing pops. Plus, Fanstoys is fully painted. BadCube relies on paint accents, which really brings down the kind of presentation. So Fanstoys takes the frontal view. As for the head sculpt alone, I don't think that either of them look bad. I think that they actually both look strong, and I like the kind of difference in the box style around the head that the BadCube offers. But I like the kind of proportions of the face better on the Fanstoys. So, like, I don't necessarily think that one is a blowout over the other. I'm going to tie them out from the frontal view. From the side, I mean, it's a wash. They both look like nonsense. You know, they don't look like heads at all, so nothing really to talk about. Their arms are actually issues I take with both, so I don't like how kind of confusing the upper arm looks on the Fanstoys. I also think they could have engineered a bit more in there in order to allow for a more elegant articulation system. The forearms for both are kind of the same. Speaking of the same, looking at the BadCube, I'm okay with the upper arm, but once again, the shoulders kill it for me. So I'm tying them both out here because I don't think either one of them do a necessarily fantastic job. From the side, once again, I don't think that either one of them are setting the world on fire. It's interesting to me how they both have that little flap that comes down the backside of the hand, but both of them look more like the car than they do like actual arms, and that's kind of my issue, mainly with the Fanstoys, but it applies to both, to be honest, in this regard, or at least from this angle. So the torso is tricky. So Fanstoys takes the deco, but they're going to take the deco in every category. But I like the shape better of the BadCube. I like that it actually has an abdomen. It is not just a completely square torso. So sculpt-wise, I'm giving it to BadCube. From the side, once again, I don't think either one of them are setting the world on fire, but the BadCube has a little bit of actual sculpted detail. It has a little bit of an effort to look like a robot, and I don't think the Fanstoys makes any real effort to make it look like a robot from this specific angle. Looking at the pelvises, I like the shape of the BadCube better, but I hate that it doesn't cover the engineering of the articulation of the hips, and the Fanstoys is just very, very simple. So I'm not really satisfied with either necessarily, and therefore I'm going to tie them out. From the side, this is an example where I think the BadCube looks unfinished and the Fanstoys looks more finished, so I'm giving Fanstoys the point from the side. side, which will give them the point overall for the pelvis. Looking at the legs, I like the sculpt better on the thighs of the BadCube, but I find them disproportionately small, and I also hate that you can see the engineering for both the hips and the knees on them. I find the Fanstoys to be generally uninspired, but proportionately correct, and it hides the engineering. So I'm tying them out because one does one and one does the other. Moving on to the lower legs, the sculpt is similar, but Fanstoys cleans it up better. So Fanstoys takes the point for the lower legs, and they tie out at the thighs from the front. From the side, everything I say about the thighs still stands true from the side view, and then the lower legs, everything about the BadCube that I said before still stands true, but the Fanstoys, I don't like anything about this from the side either. It looks unfinished, it looks more like a car than it does like a robot, it just looks uninspired. So I'm tying them out from the side view, which will give Fanstoys the point overall because they won the frontal view of the lower leg category. From the back, the Fanstoys just looks more put together. The BadCube, looks messy, specifically with the shoulders and with the lower legs. So I'm giving Fanstoys the point there as well. So they actually tie in a surprising amount of places. They tie at the head. I think the box is more interesting, obviously, so to speak. On the BadCube, I think the Fanstoys face is just more proportionate, and they both look like a mess from the side, obviously. They tie at the arms because neither one of them look finished to me. One looks unfinished because it has mess on it, and the other one looks unfinished because it just looks like there's a few more steps to complete it. And similarly, they tie at the thighs because I like the sculpt better on the BadCube, but I like the covering down of the engineering on the Fanstoys. BadCube takes the torso because it incorporates a abdomen, which I think makes the bot look more anatomically interesting. But that's all BadCube takes. Fanstoys comes in for the rest. The pelvis, namely because it covers down on the joints, and the lower legs, because from the frontal view, it looks like a robot, it looks finished and interesting, but only from the front, but it still gets the point out of it. And then it takes the overall front and back, namely because it just looks more put together, and the paint helps it present well, which gives Fanstoys the point for both paint and sculpt. Moving on to articulation, the Fanstoys head is on a hinged swivel. You get a little bit up, the taste down, and the swivel. The BadCube is on a ball peg. You get a little bit up, a little bit down, and actually a more limited swivel. Fanstoys shoulders get you up to 90 degrees, get you 360 around, no butterfly. BadCube shoulders, it's a ball peg connected to a hinge, as opposed to a universal joint that Fanstoys use. You still get all the way around, you get out to the side to 90 degrees, and no butterfly. Bicep swivel, bicep swivel. Single hinged elbow that gets you 90 degrees, single hinged elbow that gets you beyond 90 degrees. Wrist swivel, fingers on a base pin knuckle. Wrist only gets a little bit of up and down movement. Waist swivel, ab crunch. Waist swivel, no ab crunch. Universal drop downs for hips that get you out to 90 degrees, forward past 90 degrees, and a limited back. Universals that get you out to 90 degrees, forward to less than 90 degrees, but back more than 90 degrees. Thigh swivel, thigh swivel. Technically a double jointed knee with 90 degree bend. Technically a double jointed knee with a 90 degree bend. It's close. It's like maybe a little bit less, but it's close. I feel like it's close enough. No ankle tilt up, no ankle tilt down with a limited rocker. Ankle tilt up, ankle tilt down, wider range rocker. So as far as articulation goes, they tie in a number of categories. They tie at the shoulders. Ironically, they tie at the hips, but the Fanstoys hips are better, but I have to tie them objectively. They tie at the knees, and neither one of them have great range of motion there. They tie at the bicep and thigh swivels. BadCube takes the ankles, because it has far more articulation, as well as the elbow bend, because it gets a little bit more beyond 90 degrees. Noticeably more though. Fanstoys takes the head for a wider range swivel. It takes the ab crunch to take the waist. It takes the wrists. It takes the hands. Fanstoys ultimately takes the category. Scale wise, Swerve should be slightly smaller than Outback, and his head should actually run through the pelvis line of Rodimus. So I think that actually the BadCube is slightly too short. He looks perhaps arguably better with Outback, but compared to, you know, Takara, which we've been using as sort of, when possible, the standard for scaling, the Fanstoys is slightly more accurate. Moving on to transformation. Ironically, this is one of BadCube's better transformations. It didn't want to make you pluck your eyeballs out like their Warpath or, I mean, you name it. But unfortunately, they're going up against probably the simplest, straightforward transformation that Fanstoys has ever done. And a lot of those double hinges and stuff that had to flip around on the BadCube, when compared to how straightforward and almost effortless the Fanstoys is, that you just, once again, you just have to objectively give it to Fanstoys here. They streamlined it, to be quite honest. Alt mode's a tricky one. So here's the thing. The Fanstoys one looks better, but it looks better to me because of the paint, not because of the actual look of the truck. And we've already given the paint point to Fanstoys. I'm gonna give the alt mode point here to BadCube because I prefer the BadCube alt mode style where it actually looks more so like a real functioning vehicle, just a really plastic one. Whereas the Fanstoys deco comes through and really saves the aesthetics of a vehicle that doesn't really work for me. So alt mode wise, I'm giving the point to BadCube. Moving on to accuracy, once again, I think Fanstoys takes it. It looks almost identical to this thing. You know, I do think that the white legs would have been better, specifically for this look, but other than that, I mean, the silhouette's almost identical, for better or worse. This is the ugliest looking robot, I think, in the Transformers line, but Fanstoys wins for it. Price-wise, the Fanstoys is at $120, and it's here in this picture that they have the BadCube at $50, but I think the BadCube is a little bit more than that. But either way, one thing I do know is that it wasn't $120 or anywhere near it, so the price is going to go to BadCube here. Which one do you think looks better? That one. Which one do you think feels better?
Smooth. That one, definitely.
Which one?
Same one.
Okay. So, Jana, which one do you think looks better?
This one.
All right, pick them up.
All right. Oh, this one doesn't feel all too bad.
No, it's good.
I was making a prediction that it wasn't going to be, because it was a little bit difficult for my dad to set up. Sorry to expose you like that.
Behind the scenes?
Okay, wait, both of them actually feel pretty good.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, I like this one more, though.
Okay. All right, which one do you think looks better?
That one.
This one over here?
Yeah.
All right, and you can... And this one?
I think I like the feeling of that one better.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Which one do you think looks better?
That one.
Which one?
Red.
They're both red. This one?
Mm-hmm. No.
Oh, this one?
Uh-huh.
Okay. And... which one do you think feels better?
That one.
This one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Which brings us to our final scores. So they tie at gimmicks because neither of them have them. They tie at build because they're both built fairly well. This is not unlike the Gears situation where they tied at build as well. BadCube takes the alt mode because it has a realistic looking truck, and I just think it looks better than the Fanstoys thing that's just kind of trying to look truck-ish. That's probably a side effect of trying to follow the cartoon too closely, in my opinion. And BadCube takes the price because the price is the price. And even if we adjusted for inflation, it still wouldn't be twice as much. We know that from looking at the Gears last time. And then Fanstoys sweeps them in everything else. They take the accessories, they have more. They take the materials because it feels better. They take the hardware because it has some. Articulation is better. We broke down the sculpt and saw where the preferences were there. It's much better painted. It scales more appropriately. The transformation is very, very smooth. My family preferred it, and it is more tune accurate. For a final score of 10-2 Fanstoys, which I think is the biggest win that we've ever seen in a Versus to date. I think last time it was 8-2, and now this one has now topped that by 2, which is pretty crazy. A complete wash. Smoked his boots. So yeah, pretty much a sweep there. I'm waiting for one time where we can have like a complete takeover, you know, where they might tie in some categories, but one side wins everything. I just think it would be interesting. One for the books, you know what I mean? But let's see how this breaks down further. Obviously, Fanstoys is probably going to win because BadCube only won 2 categories, but let's do it for the sake of an exercise. So for best display, we take into account build, sculpt, paint, and presence. They tie at build, and Fanstoys takes the rest, which makes Fanstoys the best display option. In terms of best transformer, we take into account build, materials, and transformation. Fanstoys takes materials and transformation, and they tie at build, making Fanstoys the best transformer. And most playable, we take into account build, materials, articulation, transformation, and accessories. Fanstoys takes everything here except for the build, making Fanstoys the most playable. Fanstoys is just the overall better purchase here. And that concludes Sit Down Saturday. Look, if you're missing Sit Down Saturday, please feel free to come on over to Patreon, where we have it every time that it's not here for Versus at the $5 level, along with uncut dummies and tons of reviews and everything else, and then $10 gets you even more. You should check it out. Ask your significant other to get it for you for Christmas, so subscription. It's good stuff over there. And with that being said, I'm out. I'll be back next week with a few more reviews. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.